I've been doing baseball podcasts for a long time, and I can tell you there's few things that I do here that are more futile than a predictions episode. So let's do one anyway.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan, but I'm begging you, just call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and we just finished our sixth, and I'm about to start my seventh year here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Seven's going to be my lucky number. Follow us on Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever the heck it's called now. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball for now on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on the Instagrams. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Gametime! That's what time it is. Not a lot of trades being made. Not a lot of signings happening. There's been a couple of movement pieces here or there. But where I think we're going to start seeing an avalanche of big-time free agents are going to be signed. I think some are going to get off the board pretty quickly. I think some teams want to make a move early to sell some season tickets. And also, there's a couple of big kahunas out there. And I think some teams aren't going to be dining at the table of the big free agent contracts. Ergo, they're going to try to see what else is at the buffet. Now, I have to remind people, I think we're learning that people have short memories. And I remember when the World Series was played in 2023, my inbox was filled with people saying, who cares? Arizona, Texas, not even a lot of stars on the team. There were two teams that were bad a couple of years ago, not big market clubs, no, not big stars. Who cares? Okay, this year you get Yankees, Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, Freddie Freeman, Juan Soto, boom, Mookie Betts, and Garrett Cole, boom. And then everything turned into, so of course they bought a World Series. It's the big stars all over again. We need to do things about competitive balance or something. People can't make up their minds. The teams that make the big free agent splashes, yeah, sometimes it turns out to be Shohei Ohtani and they wind up winning the World Series, or Freddie Freeman. Yeah, that happens sometimes. Sometimes the big free agent acquisition is Nathan Eovaldi. Sometimes a team that makes a big, huge splash looks up and says, why haven't we won the World Series yet? Bryce Harper. Or gone to the World Series, Manny Machado. That happens too. We see teams sign a big free agent, it turns into a gigantic bust. And in retrospect, people say, oh, what were they thinking? And every year there's a team that sneaks something under the wire and says, oh, man, no one thought that was going to be the biggest free agent signing. When Teoscar Hernandez got big hit after big hit in the postseason, who had him down as one of the best free agent signings? I'm guessing not most of you. However, we got a bunch of free agents out there. And what I am going to do here on this Sunday episode of Locked On MLB, and hoping that nobody is signed between the moment I'm recording now and the time I release this out to the world on Sunday, hopefully none of these will come off the board. Now, I am using a scientific technique of making these predictions called my gut. I'm using this is what I think. This is my hunch. I could use lots of statistic analysis and talking about insiders, and that always comes out wrong. It's like pollsters. Who knows? And I have here the, according to MLB.com, the top 50 free agents. And I just want to let you know how high-tech this episode is. That's right. Handwritten. And a reminder that I'm still recovering from my infection, my bronchitis. So I am still on steroids. So I'm super wired right now. So I got 50 free agents here. And I'm going to start from the top and go down to the 50. Obviously, by the time we get to the end, it's going to be a little more rapid fire because at that point, it's, again, big hunch time. And also some of the teams that aren't going to be going for the big kahunas out there, I believe, are going to be trying to play the proverbial supermarket sweep. I will say this. I'm just glancing back here. And of the top 50 free agents, I have a grand total of 0 signing with the A's. 0. Because if you're a top 50 free agent, there are 29 other teams out there to sign other than the mess that's going to happen in Sacramento. What agent would say, hey, go play for John Fisher in Sacramento in a minor league stadium where no one knows what the heck is going on? Just so you know, later this week, I am going to address the Tropicana Field situation, what we don't know. I have made the point before, we need to start thinking about multi-purpose stadiums and stop having the stigma about them because of cookie cutter parks in the 70s. But I don't think a single agent in their right mind would send their client to play in Sacramento. I have a tremendously soft spot in my heart for the A's. Obviously, I hosted Locked On A's this year along with Locked On MLB. Check out Booney. He's great what he's doing with the show right now, Locked On A's. It's different than how I did it, but he's a different human being. I read that. But I don't think the A's will acquire a single player in the top 50 of these free agents because why would they? Why would they go there? It's going to be a genuine mess. And I feel badly for the players who are the Mason Millers and the Bledays of the world who are still there. But I have these top 50 here. I do have a couple going to, at least one going to the Rays because the Rays are always pretty good at reclamation projects. All right. There are a couple of very big kahunas out there. And the big one is Juan Soto, obviously. He's a MVP candidate in his prime. It's like when Machado was available. It's like when Bryce Harper was available. But unlike then, there wasn't a collective bargaining storm looming over the horizon. And so teams were reluctant to sign these MVP candidates who were still young because they thought, we don't know. Are we going to have a lockout? What are we going to do? And so eventually, I thought the White Sox were going to sign Machado. They didn't. Eventually, San Diego signed Machado, and Philadelphia signed Bryce Harper. And I think both signings have been tremendous. Harper took the Phillies to the World Series, and I believe the Padres eventually will. I'll address that in a minute. Juan Soto is like that. He is going to get over a decade with the team. He's putting together a interesting Hall of Fame candidacy. And whoever signs him will get their hat on the Hall of Fame plaque. I talked about this the other day. I believe it's going to be the Mets. I believe he likes New York. That has nothing to do with it. He'll sign with Sacramento if they offer him more money. But the Mets have the money, and like the Doomsday Machine in Dr. Strangelove, they will trigger it if they have the will to do so. If they want to pay Juan Soto this money and have him be the big Mets star for a generation, Piazza 2.0, then he will be. If Cohen wants him, he will be a Met. It's that simple. Monument Park means nothing to him. The money. He has the championship. He has the big, huge moments. He wants to get paid, and that is his right. And he can play in New York, and guess what? He is going to say, meet the Mets, greet the Mets, boom. At number 2, I have Corbin Burns, a potential Cy Young candidate out there who did a fine job with Baltimore after being traded over from Milwaukee. And I don't think he's going to sign. The new ownership in Baltimore, I think, should sign him because there isn't another better pitcher out there than that. and whoever you get to replace him is probably not going to top him. I think Baltimore should pony up the money. However, this is my, I guess, hunch. I think the Dodgers are going to sign him. The Dodgers need pitchers. He's the best pitcher out there. And if they don't sign Juan Soto, why not have Corbin Burnes in their rotation? And that brings us to Roki Sasaki. It would be great if Roki was going to Philadelphia because of all the Roki stuff. I also think he's going to the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are going to bring in Burnes and Sasaki to go along with Yamamoto and Glasnow for 2/3 of a season and Kershaw for 1/3 of a season, and then basically use Ohtani as their number 5 starter. And that's going to be their rotation as they try to win a second World Series back-to-back and their third of this decade to solidify them as a dynasty. I think they're going to do that. Blake Snell, this is another wild prediction of mine, who signed the 1 year, basically an incentive-laden where he could opt out contract with San Francisco. Obviously, things started off badly because he didn't have spring training and all of that. Then he threw the no-hitter and pitched well the second half. My prediction is Blake Snell is going back to San Diego. The Giants are probably not going to do piddly-poo this year, even with Buster Posey being aggressive. He sees that he had great success in San Diego. He sees that that's a chance to win a ring and maybe have a pitcher who let him finish the 6th inning in a World Series game. I predict he is going back to the Padres. And the last of the top 5 is Max Fried, another World Series hero pitcher with Atlanta, one of the better pitchers out there. The best pitcher available out there, not named Corbin Burnes, Roki Sasaki, or Blake Snell. I think the Red Sox are going to sign him. The Red Sox need pitchers, and they probably need another big bat. And they have a fan base that's really pissed off right now that they have not been aggressive. I think they're going to kick the tires on Soto. I think they're going to kick the tires on Roki. And I think they're going to kick the tires big time on Burnes. I think the Dodgers will outbid them. But the Red Sox, I think, will sign Max Fried because they cannot afford to walk away empty-handed. Those are your top 5. I think the Dodgers are signing 2 of them. Padres, Mets, and Red Sox are in there. But we're going to talk about some of the other big moves that I think are going to be coming up. And it includes a couple of teams that I think are going to continue to try to make that fateful run to the World Series that's been eluding them. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 to get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets and the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, I do think the Giants are going to be aggressive because they can't walk away empty-handed. They have to start putting together a winning product on the field. And Buster Posey is going to he's going to run the team. We're going to see how he is as a GM. I don't know how long Bob Melvin is going to be there. It's funny, Bob Melvin's a wonderful manager. He didn't, the former Giant and Palo Alto native who had great success in Oakland and in San Diego, did not ingratiate himself to the fan base in San Francisco. It was a strange marriage there year one. I think he's too good a manager. I think there was probably a lot of controversy between him and the front office. I think a new front office is probably going to fit well with him. I think Willie Adames is going to sign with San Francisco from Milwaukee. I think he's going to be a nice addition there. Alex Bregman, I think, is going to be heading to the Philadelphia Phillies. Remember, the Phillies have images of winning a World Series dancing in their head. It's not just the Dodger Mets show. I picked the Phillies. A lot of other people picked the Phillies, to win the World Series. They have a window of opportunity that's right now, and they have to win a title with this crew. So I may see them being aggressive and bringing Alex Bregman in there. The Padres, who I picked going to bring in Blake Snell, I also think are going to keep Jurickson Profar. I think he's going to stay in San Diego. I think he's a good fit, and why rock the boat? I think the acquisition of Juan Soto means the end of Pete Alonso with the Mets. I think he's going to go to the Houston Astros. Remember, the Astros are the division title winners. They could still win the pennant because the American League there's no super team in there. And I think Alonso will fit in well and give them some of the offense that they're going to lose with Alex Bregman skedaddling. Teoscar Hernandez is a free agent. I think he's going to go back to the Dodgers. I think it's too good a fit for him right there. He's going to stick around. The Blue Jays have money. They're probably going to kick the tires on Soto, Burns, Sasaki, Fried. I think they're going to miss out on all of them, but bring in Anthony Santander. I still don't know what the Blue Jays are doing. They're a bit of a feathered fish, but we're going to see. I think Santander is going to go over to there, be their big acquisition. Notice I haven't mentioned the Yankees yet. I think the Yankees are going to sign Christian Walker. I think he's a perfect fit at first base. I don't think they're going to sign him to a long-term deal, but I think he's going to be there. I think they're going to give him some good money, and instead of long years, he's a good fielding first baseman. Eventually, Aaron Judge is going to be the first baseman, or eventually Stanton is going to call it a career, or injuries will catch up to him. But Judge is not going to be the long-term center fielder, but I think right now Walker is a good fit there. Jack Flaherty picked up a ring for his troubles with the Dodgers. I think he's going to sign with the Angels just because I think the Angels are going to be aggressive. Not necessarily smart, but I think they're going to be aggressive. And in the past, you've seen the Angels sign a lot of former World Series champions from other teams. I think that they've already done that for Kendrick for the Cubs. I think they're going to do so with Flaherty for the Dodgers. He will cash in and probably get injured as an Angel. I think Tanner Scott's going to sign with the Padres. I think the Padres are going to load up knowing it is now. Nathan Eovaldi, I have an interesting prediction with this team that I think he's going to sign with. And bear with me for a second. Nathan Eovaldi, I think it's going to go to the Detroit Tigers. Tigers have talent, and they have an ace. And the fact that they have an ace, I think is going to be attractive to other starting pitchers to be plugged into that team. They won't have the pressure of being the ace. They can just be an arm in the rotation. And I think the Tigers will sign Eovaldi. Gleyber Torres, I think his days are over with the Yankees. I see him going to the Seattle Mariners. Yusei Kikuchi fit in really well with the Houston Astros, and I think the Astros are going to say, why would we let this guy go? And I think he's going to resign with Houston. Tyler O'Neill, who had a big comeback season with the Red Sox, I think Kansas City is going to sign him to be part of that team that's on the rise. Sean Manaea had a fine season with the Mets, and I think the Mets are going to say, hey, why ruin a good thing? And I think they're going to keep him. Hae-Sung Kim, I think is going to go to Milwaukee to try to fill the shoes of Willy Adames as the Brewers will continue to be competitive in the National League Central. Walker Buehler, last time we have a pitch thrown in the game, it was Walker Buehler getting the strikeout. I think that's his last pitch thrown as a Los Angeles Dodger. I think the Cubs are going to bring him in, hoping to give them a little bit of rotation depth. The Guardians are going to bring back Shane Bieber. I think that it's a good fit for both. Bieber's coming off of an injury, and I think Bieber knows that a bigger contract could be waiting for him after this year, and I think he's going to go back to Cleveland and give them their lift they need in the rotation there. Luis Severino had a big bounce-back season with the Mets. I think he's going to go back to the Yankees. The Yankees love bringing back old players, and I think that Severino, who found his groove with the Mets, I think is going to find his way back to the Bronx. Former World Series hero with both the Dodgers and Atlanta, Jock Peterson is going to go to the Nationals to give them a veteran and a team that has a lot of young talent, just may not quite be there yet. And Paul Goldschmidt, I also have going, where did I have him going to? I have Paul Goldschmidt going back to the Diamondbacks. I call it a hunch, I think they're going to lose Christian Walker. I think some of the fans will be angry. And Goldschmidt, whose time with the Cardinals was not what they were expecting, I think sentimentality will win, and Goldschmidt will head back to Arizona. Alex Verdugo, I think it's going to the Pirates as a reclamation project. Now, Max Scherzer, I also have going to the Tigers. I think we're going to have a little bit of a Tiger reunion. I think there's a little bit of getting the band back together. And I think the fact that in all probability, that with the fact that Detroit is going to have themselves the Cy Young Award winner, because they have Tarek Skubal. I think they're going to add Eovaldi. I think they're going to add Scherzer. They're going to add a bunch of these veterans. Now, they may not all, click, but I think that you'll see this team, because they traded away Jack Flaherty. When you're getting with Casey Mize, the rotation is kind of weird right now. So I think they're going to load up on some of these veterans so they can have a real shot of winning the division and building on nearly making it to the American League Championship Series. Jeff Hoffman, I see going to the Red Sox to give them some depth. Blake Trinan, I also think is going to go to the Angels because, boy, the Angels love to sign players who won elsewhere. Matthew Boyd, I see heading to going to the Guardians. I see the Phillies keeping Carlos Estevez. And my lone Rays prediction, I think Aroldis Chapman is going to sign with Tampa Bay because, Tampa Bay loves to sign those veteran pitchers. All right, we're going to do rapid fire, the final bunch there, because I still think there's one more example of the veterans coming back to Detroit as Detroit sees a chance to be an American League Central team and say, hey, why not us? Hey, let's hear from our good friends over at Gametime. You all know I use Gametime to get playoff tickets for baseball. I got to see the Dodgers clinch the National League pennant in Los Angeles. However, you can use Gametime for lots of other things, including other sports, theater, comedy, concerts, and more. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Gametime has all sorts of perks. You've got all-in pricing, no surprise fees at checkout. You get seat views, get a panoramic view from your app before you buy, and you have the lowest price guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, let's rattle these off rapid fire. I think Matthew Boyd is sticking around in Cleveland. I mean Carlos. He's going to Cleveland. I say Carlos Estevez is going to stick around in Philadelphia. Is what I meant to say. And Chapman. I mentioned those before. Sorry, lost my place there. I have Justin Verlander also going to Detroit. That's right. I have Tarek Skubal as their number one starter, and they look up and there's Eovaldi, Scherzer, and Verlander. All back. Verlander and Scherzer having a reunion in Detroit. Eovaldi trying to win his third ring with a different team. Scherzer's a champion twice over. Verlander's a champion twice over. They didn't win with Detroit. Detroit's still looking for their first win since Indiana Jones of the Temple of Doom came out. And so we'll just get it done. The American League is winnable. Let's just load up on these pitchers who have been there, done that, surround all the young pitchers around them, even if they're not healthy come playoff time, that you have them on the squad. I think Detroit's got to do that. I think they should do that. You could brought in another former Tiger who won a World Series elsewhere in JD Martinez, but I think he's going to go to St. Louis to fill in the bat of Goldschmidt. AJ Minter in Atlanta. I have Andrew Heaney going to the Milwaukee Brewers. Give them another solid pitcher there. Clay Holmes, no way he's going back to the Yankees. I see him going to Kansas City to give them a little bit of depth in their bullpen. And you don't need him to be the closer. Just give them some depth and get him out of the pressure cooker of New York right now. Kyle Higashioka fit well with San Diego. I don't see him going anywhere. I have Kirby Yates in Philadelphia. You know, the Phillies, they make a couple of moves. They have the basis of a championship team there. They just didn't play well against the Mets when they had the chance. If they had gone to the NLCS, I'm convinced they would have won the World Series. But what do I know? Tommy Kahnle, I see sticking around New York. I think he fit well with the Yankees. I think they'd be dumb to get rid of him. Kenley Jansen, remember him? I think he's going to go to the White Sox. I think the White Sox need to have some veteran on their team and to say, you know what, we're going to bring him in, not as a huge contract. We're like, can you throw our ninth innings for us? Can you just do that? And can you save our 40 wins we're going to get this year? Carlos Santana, I see him going to the Nats to be a veteran on there, a veteran with a bunch of playoff experience. Max Kepler, I think, is going to San Francisco. I think he'd actually be a pretty good fit there. And he seems like a kind of a player that would fit in well with Buster Posey's new squad there. David Robertson, I think he's a fit with Bruce Bochy and the Texas Rangers. Why change? Michael Conforto, I have him going to San Diego and watch him be an MVP candidate there, or at least really start to put together some good numbers there. He seems like a Padre. Jose Quintana turned his season around with the Mets, but the Mets, I think, are going to be going for bigger fish to fry. I think Quintana will go to the Kansas City Royals and give them a little more of that pitching depth. I think the AL Central is going to be a bunch of 87 to 89 win teams battling for the pennant, and who knows, maybe it'll be the Tigers. Jesse Winker, call it a hunch. I see him going to the New York Yankees to just be another bat, another person to try to spark that, to spark their lineup there. I have Yoan Moncada as a reclamation project with the San Francisco Giants. He was once the key in the trade that sent Chris Sale to the Red Sox. And for a while, it looked like Yoan Moncada was going to become a outstanding infielder, but it didn't quite click. But he obviously has talent. So why not go to the Giants and a fresh start and see what happens there? Spencer Turnbull, I see going to the Minnesota Twins. Just seems like a nice fit. And finally, Lance Lynn as a veteran pitcher heading to Baltimore to try to fill the void by Corbin Burns. I'm going to put all these ones in the description. And what I'm going to find interesting is I'm going to go back to this episode, which is being dropped on the 10th day of November, 2024. And when spring training breaks, I'm going to see how many of these hunches I had turned out to be right. And also my idea, and that's also at the same time, I'm going to take a look when spring training starts, how many decent players are just still available without a job. And if I were the Angels or the Rockies or the Marlins or some team, or the White Sox for that matter, to say, hey, put a major leaguer at every position. My $3.8 million solution. Just put a major leaguer at every spot and see what happens. And so it'll be interesting to see how many of these come through, and then at the same time see who is still available. So there we go. Tomorrow's Veterans Day. I'm doing a show on Veterans Day, and as I said later on this week, I am going to talk a little bit about the situation in Tampa Bay. But I'm also this week also going to talk a little bit about some of the voices in baseball who we won't be hearing next year. Some of the familiar voices. And you know what? There's an announcer that you may not like, but when they're away, you kind of miss them. So follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully, at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, talking about my predictions and using a high-tech method of pen and paper to have my notes. This has been Locked On MLB for the 10th day of November, 2024. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.